Hello friends, we will be covering the following: nuclei, nuclear force, radius of atom, mass energy, nucleus density, radioactivity, law of radioactivity, half-life, decay, nuclear fission, nuclear power plant, nuclear fusion. In Rutherford experiment, we took a gold foil and a radioactive source, occasionally the alpha particles that we have studied in atom chapter, travel from and travel from the source, the alpha particles. This shows that the positive charge and mass is located in center at one location. Most of space was empty. So we have already seen this experiment in Rutherford experiment. Now nuclei, which is the center part, is equal to volume of the atom divided by 10 to the power 12. Atomic number symbol is Z. Z is the atomic number symbol. Is the positive number of charges in the nucleus, that is number of protons. N is the symbol for neutron. Number of neutrons, okay, and A is the mass number, which is the sum of Z plus N. So Z was atomic number, that is number of proton plus number of neutron. So this A represents the mass number, total number of neutron and proton, or we call A as nucleus of an atom. Atomic mass are not equal. If we take a sample of carbon whose mass is 12 units, some carbon mass are 13 also. So we have an average mass. Therefore, we can differentiate in this table atomic mass and atomic number. Atomic mass is the average from the sample and it can be in fractions. Atomic mass number is as per periodic table. So this is as per the periodic table and it is round off. It cannot be in fractions or it cannot be in decimals. It has fractions and decimals and no fractions. Similarly, charges repel each other. Similar charges repel each other. If two protons are present together in nucleus, then they must repel. The nucleus will not bind together. Like we have got protons, okay? So they should repel each other. There exists another force which is known as nuclear force. This helps to keep similar charges together. So we are defining the nuclear force here. In nuclear force, it is a force that is going to keep the two like charges together. Why? Because whenever there are like charges, the same kind of charges, there is going to be repulsion. So repulsion between, say, proton. So we have to have a force which is more than this, and this force particularly is called the nuclear force. So properties of nuclear force are strongest in interaction. Nuclear force is strong. Short range force. Unlike gravitational force, electrostatic force, nuclear force is very short in range. It cannot be very far, it's very short in range. Variation with distance. So a rough plot of potential energy between the two nucleus as a function of distance is shown here. The potential energy is minimum at R. Force of attraction for distance larger than R. When the distance becomes larger than R, we note P gradually decreases to 0. It indicates that nuclear force is a short range force. Okay, this indicates as the distance is growing, the potential energy is almost coming down to zero. So what it shows is proton will be, it indicates that nuclear force is short range force. Proton will strongly be repulsive if the distance between them is less than 8 FM. We will be looking at three terms in this slide: radius of atom, nucleus density, and mass energy. Now, radius of atom is proportional to cube root of its mass number. So, radius of atom is proportional to cube root 1 by 3, cube root of mass number, okay, atomic number, mass number. Mathematically, can be represented as R is proportional to A 1 by 3. To make it equal, we can put a constant here. So we can write R is equal to R naught, A 1 by 3. Here, the value of R is 1.2 into 10 to the power 15. The second term that we are going to define is nuclear density. Okay, so the radius, we got it, and A formula is Z plus N, R naught value is 1.2 into this. So this is how we can calculate the radius of atom. So the second that we are going to define is nuclear density. So density equals to mass of nucleus by volume of nucleus. So density equals to mass of nucleus by volume of nucleus. The mass of a particle measured in a frame of reference in which the particle is at rest is called rest mass and is denoted by m. Thus, the total energy of a particle is sum of, we are taking out the energy right now. So, total energy is the rest mass energy, which is E equals to mc square, and its kinetic energy is T. So if we have to calculate the total energy, that value will come out to be E equals to, that total energy is equal to E equals to mc square plus T. Okay, and nucleus density is 2.3 into 10 to the power minus 7 kg per meter. So we are going to take out this value in the coming up slide, how this value has come. Density is equal to mass of nucleus by volume of nucleus. So mass of nucleus we can write m into A, and volume of nucleus we can write 4 by 3 pi r cube. So here we know what is the value of A. The value of A is Z plus N, and the value of R is equal to R naught A 1 by 3. Okay, so we can write here, substituting the value of R here. So we get MA by 4 by 3 pi RA cube, or we can take this 3 in the numerator and we can write 3MA equals to 4 pi RA cube. The value when we substitute here comes out to be 2.30 into 10 to the power 27 kg meter cube. So nuclear density is independent of mass number or size of the nucleus. We will be understanding the term nuclear binding energy. Okay, the mass of a stable nucleus is always less than the sum of the masses of the consistent proton and neutron in their free state. This mass difference is called mass defect, which accounts for energy release. So in simple example, I am going to explain you. So let us take for example two free state protons with value 10 and 10 each. When these are in free state, not joined, then the mass is 20. Nucleus mass is 20, 10 plus 10. Once we bring them together, these masses are in stable nucleus state, and the two nucleus mass will be 9 plus 9, 18. Some mass will be lost in form of energy. This is called mass defect. The how much has been lost? 2. So that is called the mass effect. For example, or maybe for some reason, if we have to again separate them, the two, if we have to separate them and bring them as an individual state like this, so we have to give energy to them, and this is called binding energy. So how much energy we will have to give if we have to separate them will be 2 again. So that energy is called binding energy. So binding energy of a nucleus may be defined as the energy required to break up a nucleus into its constituent protons and neutrons and to separate them to such a large distance that they may not interact with each other. They become individual again. Okay. So you have understood the term binding energy, and binding energy formula is mc square, or binding energy per nucleus is mc square by A. Okay. Just a second. Here we can see binding energy curve in this picture. Fe, this is Fe. Fe is the most stable nuclei. The most stable nuclei is Fe. Uranium nucleus, which is here. Okay, in this graph it's written here, uranium nucleus prone to fission. The heavier nucleus, less stable. Hydrogen is prone to fusion. Okay, on one side we see mass number and the other are binding energy per nucleus. So this is mass number on x-axis, on the y-axis is the binding energy per nucleus. So hydrogen is here and the most stable is Fe, iron, and then we have the uranium here, radioactive material. Okay, so this is the most unstable. Radioactivity is the phenomena of spontaneous disintegration of the nucleus. It means breaking of the nucleus of an atom with the emission of one or more penetrating radiations like alpha, beta particle, gamma ray. That is in simpler terms. Radioactivity was a nuclear phenomena in which an unstable nucleus undergoes a decay. Breaking down. Decay means breaking down. So we have unstable here. Uranium, all the radioactives which have here, these are unstable. So these are going to break easily. So these are radioactive, and what they when they decay, they take out alpha, beta and gamma particles. Here proton and proton have repulsion, neutron and neutron have attraction. Radioactivity was a nuclear phenomena in which an unstable nucleus undergoes a decay. If repulsion is more than attraction, then there will be ejection. Why will something eject out? Because if repulsion is more than the attraction, then there will be ejection. In this picture, we are conducting an experiment here. We have placed a radioactive material. This is a radioactive material in an electric field. This is the electric field where we have placed the radioactive material. So we notice alpha particles are positively charged. Here, see these alpha particles, because it is going towards the negative plate. So they are positively charged. These have been identified as helium nuclei. The direction is towards the negative plate. As these particles have more mass and momentum, and we can see the curve is little upward as compared to the beta. See, the curve is little upward. Beta particles are fast moving. Beta particles are fast moving electrons with less mass. The direction of deflection beta rays are negatively charged particles. So these are actually negatively charged particles and they are attracted towards the positive plate here. This is the positive plate. It is attracted towards this positive plate. Gamma rays are not deflected. These are the gamma rays. They are not deflected either this side or this side. So gamma rays, anyway, it's not deflected by electric and magnetic field, indicating that gamma particles do not carry any charge. They travel with the speed of light. What is the speed of the gamma rays? It is the speed of the light. Coming on to law of radioactivity. Here we are going to derive few of the equation like the rate of decay and which is R. So what is the value that comes out to be, and R is becquerel. So 1 becquerel is defined as the decay rate of 1 disintegration per second. So let's start from here. Here N naught, the number of radioactive nuclei present initially at the time, that is T0. So initially the number of nuclei that was originally present is denoted by N naught in the sample of radioactive sample. N will be representing the number of radioactive nuclei present in the sample at any instant of time. Dn, the number of radioactive nuclei which disintegrate in the small time interval dt. By using probability, the decay behavior of a large number of nuclei can be predicted. So we are going to use the tool of probability. As per radioactive law, the number of nuclei disintegrating per second of a radioactive sample at any instant is directly proportional to the number of decayed nuclei present in the sample at that instant. That means from a given sample, how many particles will break? So rate of decay, what will we say? Rate of decay equals to delta N by delta T. Here delta N is, we assume delta N number will eject out. This many number once the radioactivity sample has been put in the electric field, these many numbers will pop out in the time, say delta time. Rate of decay is equal to number of nuclei in the sample. So we have got delta N by delta T equals proportional to N. N, it is proportional to the number of nuclei present in cluster. So we can say that delta Dn by dt is proportional to this is a constant minus lambda N. So Dn increases, N decreases, hence negative. So why is this sign negative here? Because at this time Dn is continuously decreasing and Dn is increasing and N is continuously decreasing, hence negative. So integrating both sides, when we integrate this both sides from this Dn to N, our limits are going to be N naught by N. And for the time limit we are taking from the starting, that is 0.2 T. So it becomes log N minus log N naught equals to minus lambda, the limits value when we put up. So upper limit, that is T minus T naught. We can rewrite this as log N by log N naught equals to minus lambda T. Or we can say N is equal to N naught E minus lambda T. So this is a formula that you can note down. Okay, so what will be the rate of disintegration? Rate of disintegration is R equals to dN by dt. Or we can say R equals to lambda N. Where is this coming from? Here. Okay, this is the lambda N. In place of N, we can write N naught E minus lambda T. Where is this value coming from? Here. That we have just derived from log N by N naught. Okay, so we can substitute, instead of writing N, we can write this complete value here. So our rate of disintegration formula that you can note down, R is equal to lambda N naught E minus lambda T. 1 Curie, the value of 1 Curie, Madam Curie has also worked a lot on this radioactivity. So 1 Curie equals to, this is a smaller unit. So it's 3.7 into 10 to the power 10 BQ. It is difficult to estimate the life of nucleus. As we don't know when will it break. It can take 5 years, 5 minutes, 50 years, 100 years, we don't know when the nucleus activity will prop up. So we are trying to find out a method which is called as half-life, and which can help us to understand the life of the nucleus. So we take out another method to calculate, which is called half-life. The time interval in which one half of the radioactive sample disintegrates is called half-life of the radioactivity substance. So what you need to understand here is half-life doesn't mean that the complete life half. It means that when will half of the quantity will get disintegrated. When will the quantity become half? The half disintegration of the quantity. So that is half-life. So we have say 100 nucleus. Okay. We are considering 100 nucleus. So half is 50%. So 50% of 100 will be 50. So say that time takes 4 days. So 4 days in integration is say 50%. So that has taken 4 days. So we are left with 50. Again half. We are presuming 4 days it will take. So it will become minus 25. 50, half of 50 is 25. So we are left with 25. Again half is 12.5. So this is how we are actually disintegrating the quantity. If we are given a sample and told its half-life is say A, we understand that after 12 minutes only 50% of the quantity will be left. After that many seconds only the quantity, you need to understand half-life is quantity. Quantity is half will be left. So we can say half-life again, it is the period in which the number of nucleus remains half of the previous quantity. It's going to be whatever the quantity was 100, it's going to become half of it 50. If it was 50, half of it 25. If it was 25, half life means half the quantity. That will be 12.5. According to radioactive law, the rate of decay at any instant is proportional to the number of undecayed nuclei. Okay, so this is say n naught. So half time t half will be half of it. So the quantity gets half n naught by 2. So here we have dn by dt equals to lambda n. This is our general formula that we have arrived here. Which one? This. dn by dt proportional to minus lambda n. So this equals to lambda n. So here we are taking this formula dn by dt equals to lambda n. Now n naught by 2 and equals to n naught e lambda t by 2. Where is this t by 2 coming? Where is this formula being coming from? Again, this is from here. N equals to n naught e minus lambda by 2. So if it is half the cycle, we are going to say n divided by 2 and the time is now also divided by 2. Okay, so we get this particular thing. If we want, if we take 2 here, we can say 2 equals to n naught and n naught gets cancelled from left side and right side. We are left with 2 equals to e minus lambda t by 2. Or we can write log 2 equals to lambda t by 2. Taking t by here. Okay, so half of the t. So t 1 by 2 equals to log 2 by lambda. Taking it from the left side and right. So log 2 by lambda. The value for log 2 is 0.693 as per the log table. So that divided by lambda becomes the half of the time, life of the radioactive. So half-life depends on disintegration constant. So we have understood what is half-life. We are trying to find out the average life or the mean life. So the average time for which the nuclei of a radioactive sample exist is called average life or mean life of that sample. It is equal to the ratio of the combined age of all the nuclei to the total number of nuclei present in the given sample, and it is denoted by I. So here mean life or the average life equals to total life of the particle divided by total number of particle. Or we can say mean life is equal to 1 by lambda. Lambda represents here rate of integration. Okay. So relation between half-life and average life. What is the relation between the half-life? So we have just derived the formula for half-life. T1 by 2 equals to 0.693 by lambda. So where is this value coming from? Here. This. So this was the half-life. So we have written T1 by 2 equals to this value 0.693 by lambda. And the T equals to 1 by lambda. This value, which is the mean value, is coming from here. 1 by lambda. So once we equate these two equations, we get T1 by 2 tau equals to log 2. So this is the relation between the average life and the half life. Decay. Decay means breaking down. Here in alpha decay is a process in which an unstable nucleus transforms itself into a new nucleus by emitting alpha particles. Uranium 238 on emitting an alpha particle changes into thorium 234. So here look at this, uranium 236. It is going to take out the alpha particle and will break down into thorium and helium. So this is alpha decay. Here theta is the energy released. The process of spontaneous emission of an electron. Now we are studying the beta decay. Electron can be negative or electron can be positive. For the nucleus, so we have got two. Beta decay can be of two types, negative beta decay and positive beta decay. So whenever an electron, which is a negative sign, is coming out, then we can say it is a negative beta decay. When it is breaking it down into a positive electron, then we will say it is positive decay. So in beta minus decay, an electron and a new particle, I say anti-neutrino, this is anti-neutrino, are emitted from nucleus. So this is also anti-neutrino. Okay. So in beta decay, for example, we have phosphorus here. Say phosphorus is 32. It breaks down into sulfur plus minus electron and one anti-neutron. Okay, so this minus electron makes this as a negative beta. So the rays which have come out are beta. Okay, so that is why it is called beta decay. Similarly, here Na will break down into Ne plus positive electron and a anti-neutrino. Okay, so neutrino will be coming out because it is positive electron, so it will be called as positive beta. In case of gamma decay is shown through a diagram here. An unstable cobalt, this is a cobalt, unstable cobalt undergoes a beta decay. So it is going under the same beta decay and nickel is produced in the excited state. Final product is nickel. It comes out to be nickel. So nickel reaches a stable ground state after releasing energy. So there is level of energy which is being released, or the light energy, photons, is being released. It emits energy in two stages. So it's going to emit the energy in two stages. So one is going to be, say, this much energy and the other here this much. So eventually the result is going to be Ni, which is nickel. From cobalt it is undertaking a beta, but this is called as a gamma radiation because it is going to have two energy level changes in between. It is going to have energy level steps. Nuclear fission. The phenomena in which a heavy nucleus, when excited, splits into smaller nuclei of nearly comparable masses is called nuclear fission. So it is breaking down. So this breaking down is called nuclear fission. So what is actually happening here? Uranium is being struck by one of the neutron. And how is the neutron moving? One very slow moving. Okay, one very slow moving neutron, hits into this uranium. The moment it's a big, huge one neutron enters in, it breaks down into particles like Ba, Kr, Sb, Nb, Xe, Sr. So all of these, they come out. So we kept them in pair. So how we have paired them? Whatever is making close. So Ba and Kr, somewhat they are making close to 236. Similarly, like these. So we have put them in pairs together. So one neutron strikes a uranium. The mass number, say 235 plus 1 becomes 236. The total is total breaks down to, say, Ba plus Kr. Similarly, Sb is 133. So 133 plus Nb is 93. So when plus 4 N. So it is close to again 236. So we have grouped them together. So Sb has got 133, Nb has got 93. So it's actually 1 here. So it's 133 plus 93 plus 4. So that's close to 236. And similarly, 140 from this Xe and 94 from Sr, which is again close to plus 2N is close to 236. So this is how we have grouped them together. So what is Ba? Ba is barium. Kr is krypton. Xe is xenon, and Sr, seralonium. Okay. So problem or challenges with fission. What are the problems that we have? So first problem is neutron mishit. Okay. The reaction starts. When does the reaction starts? The reaction starts when a neutron hits the nucleus of the uranium. When it slowly comes and hits absolutely the nucleus. So here it is possible that this hit will be missed. There is a possibility that the neutron might not hit the nucleus. Okay, so one neutron when hits the nucleus, then only the reaction will start. So this is one of the problem, that it might not hit. Then here it is possible that this hit will be missed. And second concern is only 1%. How much? Only 1% of the uranium oxide is uranium ore. So out of the 1% of the uranium oxide is useful out of the complete uranium ore. So it is a process of complete chain reaction, and it can form a bomb if it excites. So this here, see, this will break down into this. So further will break down. So it becomes like a chain reaction. So material that comes out is also radioactive and difficult to dispose, that you cannot put it in water, then people get cancer. So it is very difficult to dispose this material as well. In nuclear fission plant, we take a small quantity of uranium in tubes. Because it is a process of chain reaction, to control the energy we use cadmium rods. We are going to be using cadmium rods here, which are called control rods, and it is also surrounded by water moderate D2O. This steam is used to move turbine and electricity is produced. Here, to decide whether to close a system or not, we decide with a K factor. So if K is atom going under fission by number of hits. Okay, so K is equal to atom going under fission by number of hits. If the value of K is less than 1, then process will close down. If K is equal to 1, nuclear fission reaction can continue. If K is more than 1, the fission reaction is uncontrollable, and control rods are used to reduce the reaction. The control rods have to quickly come on. Let us look at this picture. This is from NCERT. Here in this nuclear power plant, it is showing that the reactor is kept here. These are the rods which are attached here to control. These are the control rods of the cadmium helium rods to control the product. The moderator surrounding this is D2O, that is deuteron. Okay, this is the moderator. This steam, there is a lot of steam that is generated from here. So this steam is used to move the turbine. So once the turbine moves, the electricity is generated and this electricity is further used. So fuel uranium in form of small quantity, like small sugar cubes, okay, very small, is kept here in the tubes. Cadmium rods also used to reduce the whenever it's say more than, the process will close down whenever K value is less than 1. So it is process is uncontrollable when the process is K more than 1. So when will the cadmium rod will come? It will depend on the K. And what is K factor? The K factor is atoms going under fission by number of hits. Coming on to nuclear fusion. The process in which two light nuclei combine together to form a single heavier nuclei is called nuclear fusion. The reaction takes place in the following sequence. These two hydrogen, 1 here, so it becomes 2 1H, and electron is emitted out. So this electron, positive and negative, will make gamma rays. Here, which came out as this H21, so this plus one more H1 here will make H32. When this particularly combined together, it will make 4 2 helium and 2 of the hydrogen will be released out. So amount of energy that is coming out is 12.86. So when we multiply all these reactions together, we can say 4 of the hydrogen plus 2 of the electrons will give you helium product outside with an energy of 26.7 MeV. So this is the amount of energy that is going to be coming out. So here another chart is giving you the comparison between the fission and fusion. So uranium generally is not available. It's a limited stock. Purification process is very difficult and 1% of the complete can be used. Whereas hydrogen, water source of hydrogen is a source of hydrogen and it is available in plenty. So available easily as well. Here the efficiency, the energy that is coming out is 26.7 MeV. The efficiency energy that is coming out is 6.5. Okay. Here dangerous pollution is when they break down further, it is again a radioactive. It's a continuous waste of radioactive material. So the TH, B and Kr which came out in the reaction of fission, so BRK, these are also radioactive materials. So there is lot of pollution due to this, and whereas for hydrogen there is no pollution. So this we have covered the nuclei. I hope this was helpful to you, and thank you.